Okay.
which when I played, the gym was always an ends to a mean. I wasn't really a gym guy, but I did it because it helped with
Hmm.
hockey. And so when I retired, that was what I just like completely cut out. And I was like, no more gym. And
Yeah.
then, 3.5 years on, I was like, huh, I kind of miss the gym.
Hmm.
So this last month, I've been working out again.
It's different. It's like, you have your main sport, and then yeah, like you said, you go to the gym and you do box jumps or squats or whatever it is you need to do in the gym because you're like, all right, this is going to make me faster, more agile. I'm going to be a better player or a better athlete. But then I find now doing it some days, because often for me, it's like I've just got done with a hard hour of swimming and now I have to do my weight stuff. I find with the days I'm not exhausted, it's almost like a personal meditation because it's a different kind of difficult
Mhm.
than going out and playing or in my case, going running or cycling or swimming, and it kind of gives me almost like an easy moment with myself, with my own mind, where it's like, obviously it's tough and it hurts, but it doesn't take quite the same kind of focus I at least imagine like field hockey does, where you have to pay attention to everything in your peripherals and where the movement to all the players and the ball and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it is nice, and but it's fun. But I'm also like I've been enjoying being back in it, but without that extra purpose of like why am I doing this? Sometimes I'm a bit lost. I'm a bit like, okay, I'm gonna go lift some weights, and like I don't have a reason other than that for why I'm doing it. But yeah, but it's nice to be back in there.
Yeah, I think the why is something to struggle with, definitely, where it's like for you, the why for a long time could be I want to be on the Olympic team. Like that's a pretty big why. It's a pretty big motivator. And then without that, it's like, well, I know I should stay in shape, but I kind of feel like, at least for me, the human nature, like the slothfulness, catches up with you. You're like, well, I don't really have to do this. It's just if I want to do this, and then what I really want is to take a nap. So do I go to the gym or do I take a nap? But then when you go, like you feel better after having been there. But it's like getting over that hurdle since you don't have that big why anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
think what I've realized recently is that it's been long enough that even playing socially, I'm starting to notice the lack of strength in when I play hockey.
mm,
And so I've come to terms with the fact that over time, already now and in the future, I won't be able to do what I remember being able to do.
mm,
You're like, oh, I can just do that. Oh no, I can't do that anymore.
mm.
But I figure if I can just do a little bit of gym work, so I'm a bit stronger, that I can just slow that decline a little bit.
Right. And that see that's we're of similar age. I think you're a year older than me, but it's especially prevalent as an endurance athlete. Like your peak, I'm right in that kind of area where you're supposed to peak, but at the same time, I'm already past kind of that really high power phase in your early 20s and kind of looking forward the next however many decades. It's just like this is just a battle against the decline in age.
Yeah.
Like you get past the point of being like, all right, I'm gonna be the best I've ever been. It's just like I just don't want to be worse than I have to be, which isn't quite the same motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I joke about it with the guys I play with now. I'm like, oh, you know what? Today, the best I'll is like it only goes down from today, because next year I'll be worse, and the year after I'll be worse again. And uh, but yeah. So for you, are you transitioned from running to triathlons?
Yeah, so I ran in college and then I transitioned trying to become a professional triathlete. So I spent about 8 years doing that, and I kind of gave up the ghost after a crash in a race where I probably would have qualified. That shattered my collarbone. I had a surgery I was out for several months, and I was just broken mentally. I'd worked my body and my mind so hard for so long that I just couldn't keep up with it anymore. And like it would have been, I would have needed such a large force of will after that event to try to get back to it. Because I mean, I was spending, running the two businesses and then also spending like 17, 18 hours a week training. Sunday would be my big day where I go out for a bike ride for 5 hours and then go run for a half hour afterwards. So it's a 6 hour block, and it just got to be too much. And to be fair, I always knew that it was a long shot for me to do it, but it was something that I wanted to do, so I
Yeah.
persisted. And then it was a matter of, okay, well, like it didn't quite happen. And it was like you're like right on the cusp, but it's not a matter of like I'm friends with people that are now pros or have qualified and decided not to become pros,
Mm.
and it's just I've kind of want to say um, not come to the realization, but um, just I'm losing my turn of phrase here, but basically, I know that like my genetic potential is not high enough to make it easily an attainable task. So it's like, yes, I probably could make it happen, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of transition I've been dealing with for the last, I think, 18 months now. Should think about the timeline. It seems like it's been longer than it has. But so it's like I'm still doing triathlon, still trying to stay in shape and do all that stuff, but definitely struggling with the like, well, now why am I doing that? Like, why am I waking up at 6 a.m. to go to the pool and beat myself up? Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and it's not quite the same as retiring from an Olympic team, but some similarities in terms of like giving up that identity a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's a big, very similar thought process on my end. Um, it's like when it's the for me it was like hockey. Like there's lots of really good highs. Like you play these tournaments all over the world and like just these amazing games. But the whole process is it can be such a grind.
Hmm.
Like it's a lot of you're training in Vancouver where it's like just above freezing and raining and windy, and you're doing this day after day after day. Um, and going through that, you have to have kind of that fire or that love for it. And I had that through my career, but then also getting pulled other ways. Then after 2016, I was like, I don't think I have that anymore. I don't think I have
Mm-hmm.
it in me to be like to re-enter that grind and to keep going. Um,
Yeah, motivation is always seems like this. Um, I don't know, like fleeting mystery, and I've always feel like I've had it in abundance, and then I've always wondered why other people around me didn't have it because it's like it didn't seem like I had anything particularly special. But then I also have noticed over time like that motivation wane where it's like part of the motivation was fueled by my desire to be a pro. Well, that's not really a factor anymore. So then, some of that fire's died down. And I've had to kind of like refocus and think about what do I have fun doing?
yeah,
Instead of just grinding, like, am I having fun when I get up at the, go to the pool at 6 a.m.? um, and deciding I'm doing this because I want to, not because I'm trying to attain something, but because I enjoy it. And
yeah,
that seems to be from like everybody I've talked to on the podcast, that from, amateurs to pros to those people that could be pros and decide not to be, uh, fun seems to be the like underlying current of why people continue long term.
absolutely. Um, yeah, and that's exactly right. I think, at least for me, it's. I always told myself like the if you're like for field hockey for me, if I was doing it just to try and go to the Olympics, it's there's no way you survive. There's no way you there's no way you do it, but there's also no way that you enjoy like that you like your life at the end of that 4 years
Mm-hmm.
of it. You have to even when it some days it does kind of suck. There's still some part of me that just loved those early morning trainings in the middle of winter,
Mm-hmm.
being with the guys and all the rest of it.
Yeah. So, but before we move on to your research, tell me a little bit about the Olympics experience. So, I mean, it's a long flight from Canada to Brazil. I have a friend who does that because he lives in Canada, is from Brazil, so I know it takes a little bit of time to get down there. Um, Take me through. You're getting on the plane, and then kind of I guess, a bridge timeline from leaving Canada to, you're on the field.
Yeah, no, it was the Olympics. It, it was I say this and I think it sounds silly, but it captures kind of like that it's a big event. Like it's bigger than anything else you've done. You're like, okay, I've prepared myself. I know it's going to be big. And then you go and it's just so much like to live that is so different than to know it going in. And so I was pretty blown away by just how much bigger an event it was. But yeah, so like the flight is it's very long. It'd been a long build up. Like the team was announced probably like 3-4 weeks before the Olympics. So you got confirmation we're going. We had like a test series against the United States in Vancouver. Played some games, all these different send off things. The Canadian Olympic Committee did this whole like video around us.
Hmm.
That's you're just prepping. When is this actually going to happen? And then we board the flight, and it's we go from Vancouver to Toronto, and then Toronto to Rio, which is some like 16-hour journey.
Yeah,
Like it's it's
it's
not.
long.
You're pretty exhausted, but then you arrive and like they've got everyone's decked out in like their Olympic stuff, and it's it's all very exciting. And then you realize that a lot of the Olympics, like the logistics of the Olympics, is a lot of hurry up and wait.
Mm.
And like that's every trip, but like the Olympics on another scale of hurry up and wait. So then you're around the airport, you're waiting for the bus, but then there's like all these things that like you do, and when you thought about for so many years, and then when you do them, it's like, oh, this is actually happening. Like, and so you come into the Olympic Village and you start looking around and you see all the other athletes,
Hmm.
um, all these people who are just like unbelievable at whatever sport it is that they do. Um, yeah, and then and then we kind of have to buckle down again and kind of get our. We were there like a week or two before the game started, and it's a big tournament. We're playing very good teams, and so then it's okay. We kind of enjoyed that moment, and now it's back to work.
Hmm.
And then you kind of get into training and prepping, um, and then kind of the purest like Olympic moment for me was the opening ceremonies. Um, it was because like for us for field hockey we weren't really supposed to qualify that cycle.
Hmm.
Like we hadn't qualified for London, and our funding was pretty much all was like a lot of it was cut, and so we're
Hmm.
just like on a bare bones budget. We went to this qualifying tournament that like we had some confidence, but we weren't supposed to qualify from, and we did. And so then it was like you walk into the Olympic Stadium, the whole crowd is cheering. My parents are somewhere up in the stands,
Hmm.
um, and you're surrounded by 15 of 15 close friends who you've kind of gone on this journey with. So that was this moment. Like, I really this really has happened.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then then the hockey happened, and we didn't do as well as we wanted. So it's interesting because like on many levels, there's such an unbelievable experience. Something I'll you know hold with me the rest of my life.
Hmm.
But we didn't do as well as we wanted. Like we went in there and we thought we could win some games and upset some teams, and at the end of the day, we came 11th out of 12,
Hmm.
which is where we were ranked going in. But it felt like a missed opportunity. So there's gonna be that little a little bit of a shoulda, woulda, coulda, like, close
Yeah.
moments in game, all the rest of it. But then after that was done, our tournament finished after the group stages, and so then had like a week and a half left where we went from being like, when you're in tournament mode, every moment is scheduled pretty much.
Hmm.
Like your off days, you have so much scheduled around meetings and activation and all the rest of it, and then we finish and we went for a week and a half in the Olympics in the village, but absolutely no schedule. Just do whatever you want.
Hmm.
It was disappointing to not still be playing, but it's
Right.
also really fun because we could get with our athlete passes, we could pretty much get into every event.
Uh-huh.
We weren't that supposed to, but they'd mostly let you in.
Yeah.
So you just take the shuttles and you go, okay, today we're going to go to canoe kayak, and you just kind of walk in the athlete's entrance and hang out and watch all the athletes, cheer on the other Canadians and
Hmm.
um, yeah. So that's a bit disjointed, but that was kind of my Olympic experience.
That's what I was kind of wondering about, where it's like, I mean, you went and, even if it doesn't matter if, say, this obviously is an exaggeration, but there's 12 teams and say you're ranked 20th, like, you're still like, we're going to go try to win. Like, you're not going to be like, I want to place last. Like, that's not the,
Yeah.
vision in your head. So it's like, I just wondered how that mentality goes. Was like, you're out and you're like, well, that's it, but we're here, so there's so many things to experience, and just like you said, dealing with that disjointed nature of like, we wish we were still doing it, but we could also do all these other incredible things at the same time.
Yeah.
So did you like I said, I just didn't pay enough attention to the Olympics as I should have. Did you get to cheer any Canadians on to victory, the other stuff that you watched?
Yeah. I mean, I went and watched not quite to victory, but to a medal.
Okay.
We saw the 4x100 uh,
Okay.
relay, the final for the men.
Hmm.
And so that Canadian got bronze in that. And so that was awesome. Like those athletes are just incredible.
Yeah, those guys are. I'll assume it's the men's team. I
Yeah.
didn't say, but um, they're that relay is ridiculous. The 4x1, the 4x2, and the 4x4, all just like, how are you running that fast? And especially the 4x1 guys, they're enormous.
Yeah.
So that the stature of the 100-meter guys always, it surprises me a little bit, I guess, but like at the same time I'm like, you need a ton of power. They're almost like muscle cars, where they're
Yeah.
just like huge and beefy. They can only do a short little sprint, but they're gonna like really haul down the track the whole way. So tell me a little bit about your research. I read, I think in a different interview you'd done a couple of years ago, one of the things you liked about your research, was its flexibility to allow you to compete. So I guess before you tell me about your research, I have to ask, if the perfect project had come along that was not flexible, would you have passed on it?
So I think when I was making that sort of choice, I was entirely driven by hockey because
Okay.
I was playing hockey before I started my grad school.
Mm.
And so it kind of like the lab that I wanted to join was the one that I did on like scientific basis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I didn't wasn't really much of a decision for me. It was like, yes, this is who I want to join,
Okay.
and they tend to be flexible. But I think even before I started looking at labs, I did kind of like, okay, what sort of research are they doing? What sort of model system are we working with? How easy is it to pick up and put down as travel demands?